All right, who do we have on the phone right now?
This is Mac, and this is Kane.
Oh, man. Mac, how you doing right now?
Oh, I'm good, man. As good as I could be in this position.
Absolutely. Now, how many years have you served so far, and where are you located at?
Whew, man, feel like I was born in prison, man. I've been here now like 16 years and some months.
Yeah, man, that's a very long time. You know, how are you getting through it right now?
Oh, you know, just staying strong, man. Just believing that the best gonna come out, and that's pretty much what's been keeping me going. You know, just having my family support of the people who love me, and just knowing that, you know, one day everything, you know, all the truth will come out.
Absolutely. Now, you know, for those that don't know, you were signed to No Limit Records really at the height of their success. What was it like really being part of that whole situation with Master P at the time?
Oh, that was crazy. So, like I say, that was crazy. I met P through, you know, a lot of friends. In fact, before I signed with him, a lot of people that was on his label, I knew everybody but him. Like, I knew a lot of the producers, the rappers, and even the security he had. You know, I had known him for years, and it was like I knew everybody in his circle, but I just didn't know him. And, you know, I did a few songs with a couple of his artists, and once he heard me, he was like, yo, man, what you want to do? He cut me a check, and I was like, shit, I mean, ain't nothing else to talk about. This dude was serious. So I signed with him.
Absolutely. Now, what do you think was kind of like your greatest memory from being, you know, part of that whole situation?
Well, I think that just being a part of the whole movement, being a part of something, you know, that the whole world knew about, and it wasn't, you know, anything as far as individually, just everybody knew, like, yo, No Limit. You know, they knew the tank was coming through, and it was a good feeling to know that you were a part of something that was really making noise in the world.
Absolutely. And then, you know, you had a successful solo album. Well, you had a couple solo albums on No Limit, and then you were part of the 504 Boyz.
Right.
Yep. And then I Can Tell. I remember I Can Tell was a song that was bumping in the clubs back in the day.
Well, actually, what's weird is we did that song originally for Mercedes. She had this R&B artist named Mercedes, and me and a good friend of mine named Jabot, we kind of connected, came up with a hook, came up with the verses, and another friend of mine named Peaches, who was actually signed to No Limit, she wrote some of the lyrics. Me and G wrote like I wrote the rap, and me and him kind of came together on the chorus, and he wrote the R&B part, and he was actually singing on it. But we did it for Mercedes' album originally, and it was a hit, and P knew it was a hit. I mean, you know, he can hear a hit, so he took it and put it on the 504 Boyz album too.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, would you say that was your biggest song?
Nah. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I would say probably the biggest selling song I've ever had probably was Wobble Wobble. Yeah, we came up with that. Actually, that song was originally on Magic's album, on Magic's second album, I believe, with No Limit. And it was originally just me, C Murder, and Magic on it. And when P heard that one, you know, like I say, P hear a hit. He know what a hit is, so he heard it and he put it on the 504 Boyz album, kind of give it a bigger market.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, at the height of your success, you had a series of events that got you put in prison, which is where you are right now. Now, I know that you're still going through an appeal process, so we don't want to, you know, say anything
Right.
that's going to hurt that process. But what exactly were you convicted of?
Well, I was actually charged with second-degree murder, but I was convicted of manslaughter.
Okay. Who was involved in the whole manslaughter? Like, who exactly died?
Well, the young man who died, I didn't know him, but it was weird because we never even met. We were just at the club, me and my family. We threw I guess you would say a party. It was like an event we threw, me and my mom and this promoter in the area. and I had a lot of my friends in there, a lot of family was in there, and we were all just like, you know, mingling with the patrons of the club, and a fight broke out on the dance floor. And when the fight broke out, I was standing like, I would say about 10 feet away from the fight or whatever, and me and a couple people were talking, and I walked towards the fight to see, you know, basically go see what was going on, who was involved, and to kind of tell them to chill because my mother was at the door collecting the money, and, you know, I had a lot of family there. My father was in there, aunts, uncles, you know, a lot of my family was in there. So, you know, I went over there to go try to see if I can stop this from happening, but as I took steps toward it, I heard a gunshot, and that's when I dropped to the floor and pulled the gun I had on me out and ran toward the front door looking for my mother. So a lot of people saw me with a gun in my hand, so they just automatically assumed, I guess, you know, in the heat of the moment, you hear a shot, you know, it's dark, people are yelling, people are screaming, people are running, and they see me with a gun, and they're like, yo, yo. So when I went home, that's when I found out somebody was actually shot, because when I was at the club, I didn't even know somebody was actually hit with a bullet. I just heard a gunshot. And when I got home, the guy who was babysitting, well, he was kind of house sitting for me. My little brothers were there, and they were real young at the time. They were like 10 and 8 or something like that. So he was kind of babysitting, and he told me, man, the detectives just called, and they said they want to talk to you about a shooting. And I was like, oh shit. That's when that's when I found out someone was actually shot. And I kind of stayed there and just waited for the detectives to get there, and they came.
Okay. And then you went through the whole trial process. Now, were you offered a plea deal before the actual jury verdict?
No, not at all. In fact, I don't think I was offered a plea for several reasons. You know, I think somewhere down the line, I think they kind of discovered that I may have not been the person who done it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. It's like, I guess in most investigations, you investigate and then you arrest. Well, in my situation, it was kind of reversed. They arrested me and then they went to investigate. And I think when they investigated, I believe that somewhere down the line they found out, or at least they had a inkling that, wait, we may have the wrong person. But I think instead of, you know, going back and telling the public that, you know, the police is wrong, because we put the police on such a pedestal, you know, and the public, we do that to them. I think it makes them reluctant to admit when they're wrong. And I believe that has something to do with why they continue their I guess you would say, pursuit of me.
Okay. Now, you were originally charged with second-degree murder, but you were convicted of manslaughter, which is a lesser charge.
Yeah. Yeah, by the jury.
Okay. All right. And how many years were you given exactly?
30.
30 years. Like 30 years and manslaughter don't usually go together. That's a murder number.
Right. Well, it's crazy because in Louisiana, like, if I'd have got convicted of second-degree murder, that's life. Like, Louisiana have mandatory life sentences for murder.
Okay.
So it's kind of, the laws here they're kind of strict, man. It's like manslaughter in Louisiana carries between 0 to 40. And rarely do someone get 0. I'm going to tell you that. If you get 0, it's probably because someone you know in your immediate family is some kind of way politically tied.
Right. So how did you feel? Like, how old were you at the time when you got sentenced?
Well, when I got sentenced, I was actually 24.
Okay, so at 24 years old, hearing that 30 years you're going to be in prison, you know, that's more than your entire life. Like, what really
Right.
went through you emotionally when you heard that?
Oh, hell. I think I cried myself to sleep. I was like, damn. I left the courthouse, came back to the cell, man. I remember it like yesterday. I came back to the cell. I was just like, man, I didn't even know what to think. I don't know if it makes sense, but I don't even know if I knew what to feel. I just was like stunned. I was sitting in my cell like, I don't believe this just happened. Like, this man just said 30, years. And I went to doing the math, and I'm like, so basically, I'm going to be 54 years old when I get out of this place. Wow. And that's all I can think. Like, my mind was just like, nah, this is some bullshit. So it went from that to, I just got kind of overwhelmed with emotions, just thinking about my family and thinking about not being able to be there for my son, because when I left the streets, the mother of my son was only 6 months pregnant with him. He wasn't even born. And I couldn't fathom at that time, what it would be like for my son, because I never had to experience that. My dad taught me everything. So it was crazy. So I was just thinking about all that, and, man, I just cried myself to sleep.
Now, since the time that you started your prison sentence, it seemed like there was new findings that have happened. I know that we had actually put up a story recently saying that the fiance of the shooting victim said that you were innocent.
Yeah, I actually seen that story, and I was just like, wow, man. I guess it's good, and it's a relief to know that, someone from that young man's family actually got a chance to see the evidence, because we've always believed all along that anyone who sees the evidence of this case, man, will automatically, if you thought I was guilty and you actually saw the paperwork, the police reports, and all this stuff, I always knew that anybody who see it with in their right mind will come to the conclusion that I was not guilty of this charge. And I just think that the jury situation was just kind of, I just think we didn't have jurors with the right mindset.
Right. I mean, you had an all-white jury.
Yeah, it was. The jury was all white. It was predominantly people over 40, and they were from rural areas, and pretty much a preconceived perception of who they thought I was. And I just think that perception guided their judgment.
They actually used your lyrics to help convict you. I know that Killer Mike spoke recently, and he was he actually mentioned that, and he talked about how dangerous that is. If you could actually do that with all artists, you could really use that to convict anybody.
Right. It's like, well, what happened to freedom of speech? You know what I mean? And really, just really, it's like, at the end of the day, we're artists, and we're in this to make money. You know what I mean? And I mean, I look at some of the artists we have here today, and I think some of the content of their songs are probably a little bit more edgy and incriminating than what we had back then. And just to be real, we're in this, to make this money, and we're feeding a market that demands this type of content. I mean, at the end of the day, I wasn't walking around shooting people in real life. I wasn't walking around, selling drugs to people in real life. In fact, I don't even talk about selling drugs on my song because it's not something that I ever did. And any violent content that I spit in my songs was basically stuff that I know people wanted to hear. You know what I mean? And if that can be used against me in court, that is dangerous. And not only is it dangerous, it's unfair. Because, I mean, one of the things my lawyer said in court was like, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the Terminator in this movie. Does that mean he's the Terminator in real life? And, not to make excuses, and it's not an excuse for the type of music we make, but a reason. Many of us make this kind of music because it appears to us to be the most lucrative route. If the market demanded something different, then these guys would make different songs, if that makes sense. Because I don't know these little guys. I don't know these little guys personally, and I know for myself. I made the kind of music I made because, to me, at that time, it appeared to be the most lucrative route.
I mean, when you look at this whole situation and where your life is right now, and gun control is really in the news right now. That there was the biggest shooting in U.S. history, the biggest, deadliest shooting in U.S. history just happened in Orlando.
Right.
Do you at all regret carrying a gun in that situation? Because it seemed like people pointed at you because you had a gun. Now, in retrospect, if you didn't have a gun with you, do you think that the situation would have worked out differently?
Well, of course, just taking my situation, I probably, I done thought over and over again, man, what I could have done differently. And of course, it crossed my mind that, man, if I wouldn't have had a gun on me, I wouldn't even be here. But at the end of the day, I had a gun because, hell, I didn't have a criminal record, and I was able to buy a weapon. It's just that simple. I carry guns for my own protection,
Yeah. Yeah, and the U.S. has a right to bear arms in its Constitution.
Right. And it can't get any simpler than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't.
Absolutely.
I actually used to like different kinds of. I used to like different kinds of guns, as far as just the way they look. Some of them, but I mean, it wasn't a crime to buy a weapon for someone without a criminal record.
Yeah, I mean, I have multiple guns that I legally own myself as well.
Right, and I'm glad you made that point, because when the police officers, what they did was, one of the things they did too that was kind of illegal was they took the weapons, every weapon that they found at my house, and all of them were legally bought, and they were all bought from actually a gun shop, a gun store, a well-known gun store in this area, and they brought them to court, and they didn't use them as evidence because they couldn't. None of them were fired, not even the weapon I had on me that I gave to them. None of them were fired. But what they used it, they said, the prosecutor said he was using it to show the jury that basically that I'm known to carry unregistered weapons. And I thought that was kind of, what's the word I want to use? I just thought it was kind of weird, because what he failed to tell the jury was that all of those weapons were legally purchased.
Okay, well, you said something that was kind of strange, because you said that the gun that you had on you wasn't fired.
Yeah, it wasn't fired.
Okay, so how do you get convicted of manslaughter if the gun you had on you was never fired?
I don't know. You might have to answer that question. Well, actually, I left the club. So what the prosecutor had to do, and I think he really did a good job of doing it. Unfortunately, I saw the bad end of it. He painted a picture to the jury, basically that I had plenty opportunity to get rid of a gun between the club and my house. Like he just put that idea in the air, in their mind, and he used slight little words that slight little parts of the language he used. And he had a picture of a blue box that they found at my house, in my truck, I believe, or it may have been at the house, but it was a gun case for the weapon I had on me, right? I actually had 2 gun cases for it, because I tried to carry this gun on with me one day when I was traveling, and the people at the airport told me I had it on my bag that not the bag that you carry on, but the one that you sent before. I don't know what you call it.
Check-in.
Yeah, the bag.
Check-in luggage.
Yeah, the check-in luggage. And it was in there. It wasn't loaded. I had the bullets laying on next to it. I had it inside of like a bag, like a leather lip pouch inside my luggage. And they said, well, you can't bring it unless you get a case for it. And they had me purchase a case actually at the airport. So I bought the case at the airport, they put it in there, and they let me travel. So when I came home, now I have 2 gun cases for 1 gun. So what they did was they took a picture of the gun case, brought it to court, and kind of painted this picture that this gun case is to a missing gun. But what they didn't tell the jury, or what they didn't do, and I thought was lazy police work. They didn't bring the blue case to court, of course, because the blue case would have probably proved that they would have to prove where I got it from and its connection to the gun that I had on me.
Yeah, man, it's a crazy and a very sad story. You know, I think you know, if you look at, you know, street culture and you look at hip hop, I think a lot of people try to glamorize their prison time, and I think that they try to use it as a code of honor and as, you know, having stripes. You know, for someone who's been in prison for so long, what would you tell the kids who haven't been to prison yet?
Man, I hate prison. It's simple. Prison is awful. There is nothing good about prison. I mean, of course, you meet good people, you meet bad people, that's life. But prison is awful. If you think that you need time in prison to validate who you are or give you some type of street credibility, you have a lot to learn. It's simple. This is a place that will destroy you mentally and emotionally if you're not strong. And a lot of people come through here and they're not strong. It's not physical. You know, we all hear the stories about, you know, guys getting raped, guys getting, you know, jumped or bushed or whatever you want to call it. But these things happen, but in truth, it all starts with you. You know, nobody ain't going to try you unless you carry yourself a certain way, unless they sense that fear in you. You know, they can smell that. A dog smells fear. You know, you got some dogs here. And it's not a place that I don't think anybody should glorify, because you're away from your family, you're away from the people you love, and that's what's most heartbreaking. You know, when you go to sleep at night and you're waking up every day and it's the same routine. It's like watching Groundhog Day, the same thing over and over again. Nothing ever changes in prison. And you're not getting paid for your work. Oh, you're going to work. That's the reality of it. You're going to work. You know, I mentor some guys that come through here every week. You know, a lot of times I hear brothers saying, man, you know, it's hard to find a job on the streets. Oh, you're going to work here, and you ain't going to get paid nothing. So, I mean, you're going to either get you a job on the streets working at McDonald's, flipping burgers, whatever you got to do, or you're going to come in and you're going to work for free. So, in conclusion to that, I'll just say prison sucks. It's not a place nobody should want to be, and definitely not a place you should glorify. I mean, if you're a man, you're a man. You don't need prison to validate who you are.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say thank you to all the people who continue to support our cause. And it's humbling. You know, it's humbling to see the support from all over the world that we've been getting. And we have a new video that my parents put together about a month ago. It's called "The Truth, the Way, and the Life." It's a song I recorded in like '99, I believe. One of the last songs I recorded before I got locked up. And they took it and they have like my brother playing as me in the video. It's weird, man. When I actually saw it, I was like, wow. My brother is like 27 now, so he looks a lot like I looked back then. And I'm going on 39 next year. I mean, next month, not next year. Next month I'll be 39.
Yeah. That's what it is, man. Well, keep your head up, man. You're going to get through it. And, you know, wish you the best.
So, thank y'all for having me.
No doubt.